There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a thinner tree. And an old weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Fork. On this rare convergence of Passover, Easter, and Ramadan, we celebrate the season of renewal together and in recognition of each other's personal spiritual journey and traditions. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you vote, wherever you are on your life's journey, whatever your name for the sacred, you are very welcome here. My name is Ken Ettlinger. Today, I am your worship associate leader. The order of service for today's worship is on the welcome table outside the sanctuary. Ours is a shared worship. Our minister, the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, who is usually in our pulpit several times a month, is on sabbatical through June. In the meantime, we have worship led by our worship associates, visiting ministers, and guests. We hope that you will find your worship service this morning a time of meaningful reflection, connection, and inspiration. You can feel free to contact the head of our care and connection team, Carolyn Holstein. Pam Wittenberg will be handling pastoral care needs during Reverend Kimberly's sabbatical. Their contact information is being added to your chat box. We extend a special welcome to those of you who may be new to our congregation or to Unitarian Universalism. We hope that you will join us after service for coffee and hospitality. Feel free to ask questions and to come again. If you're visiting online, please put your name and contact information in the chat, and someone from our welcome team will reach out to you. And of course, it's always a pleasure to see the familiar faces of this community. Your presence here is a blessing. As a reminder to us all, please silence your phones or mute yourselves on Zoom until you need to share something. We pause to acknowledge that the land we worship and reside on are the ancestral lands of the Montaukett, the Shinnecock, and the Korchak, and to honor our relationship with our Shinnecock neighbors today in their continued struggles for sovereignty and for justice. The first slide is about the announcements for this week. After a 3-year hiatus, the Ramadan Iftar returns to the East End this Tuesday, April 19th at 6:30 p.m. Come and join our Muslim friends and neighbors at the UUCSF Meeting House, then breaking fast together at sunset. This is a live event, not on Zoom. If you have a special Middle Eastern or South Asian dish you've been yearning to share, now is the time. Come and enjoy the fair. All are welcome. Ken Dorff and a team of volunteers have worked hard to make this happen. His contact is being added to the chat right now. And there's still a need for helpers. If anybody is planning on being there on Tuesday evening, there is a need for people to set up and break down the dinner. On Saturday, April 23rd, we will celebrate Earth Day by joining the staff and friends of Shine, our school we share our meeting house with, to do a bit of spring cleaning around our grounds, including our butterfly garden. Join us if you can to help out between 10 and 2:30 p.m. Shine will host little kids in their outside play area during this event. Some hand tools will be available. You can talk to Jerry Boyer or to me after the service if you're interested. And there is information added to the chat. The Long Island Area Council of UU Congregations will host the Alzheimer's Association of Long Island on Saturday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. They'll present a Zoom information session on Alzheimer's. Again, your chat will have a link for registering for this event. Your Helping Hand Fund, made up of monies contributed by members and friends of the UU of CSF, have made grants of $1,000 each to Southampton Senior Services, East End Birth Network, and the East End Food Institute's Farm to Pantry program. Find out more in our weekly e-bulletin or contact Carolyn Holstein, Ingrid Trinke, or Martha Potter. Please support our little food pantry right outside our doors. If you can help, contact Carolyn Holstein. Her contact is being added to chat. Make sure if you don't get your our weekly e-bulletin that you sign up for it. And again, the link is on your chat because you'll find more information about all these events and our community outreach programs. John, I know that there may be a few announcements that I didn't get to. I know John has one.
Yeah, just one quick announcement. Next Sunday after the service, we'll be having our annual budget hearing. It'll be your opportunity to give input on what the coming year's budget should look like. And the board and the Finance Stewardship Committee will appreciate that. It'll be here, but also available on Zoom. So either way, hope you can join, and it'll be right after the service.
Thank you, John. Anybody else for announcements? There are many wonderful things about this congregation. One is the way that people pitch in so many different ways to make a difference in our community and each other's lives. I am proud to be part of it. We save our personal joys and concerns for later in this worship service. But first, I'm going to do the introductions. Today, we're especially pleased to have Reverend Amy Strano in our pulpit. She is joining us from Woodside, Queens through the magic of technology. Reverend Strano is a board-certified chaplain and ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, serving as the Director of Spiritual Care and Education at the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. Reverend Amy leads a team of multi-faith chaplains in providing emotional, spiritual, and religious support to patients, their loved ones, and hospital staff. She graduated from Mount Holyoke College and holds a Master of Divinity from Union Theological Seminary in the city of New York. She is a lifelong UU and a member of the Unitarian Church of All Souls in Manhattan. Today, Reverend Strano will be reflecting on the holy days of the season, as well as her theology, which is rooted in love. As a hospital chaplain, Reverend Strano has been on the forefront of the healthcare crisis facing our global community. Throughout the pain and loss of these last 2 years, love has been her guide, her comfort, and her challenge. Our musician this morning is Steven Skolberg, who is our music director and who will be helping us to celebrate this day in song. We also thank our tech people, Carl Wittenberg, Mark Potter, Kent Martin, and Monica Zasada behind the camera, who are making things happen for those of us on Zoom. We could not do this without the help of many willing hands. This morning, I have a story to tell. When I was 14, I was invited to what is known as the Pussy Willow Sunday by my brother, his fiance, and her grandma Chachin. It was at the Ukrainian Catholic Church in West Islip, where they were later married. As a Holy Week tradition, the elderly priest handed out willow branches to us as we left the church. A branch very much like this. And you can see this I harvested from my own pussy willow tree about a month ago. Grandma Chachin asked me on the way back home if I knew why the pussy willow is so celebrated by the Ukrainian people. And she told me this story. Once, a long time ago, there was a mean farmer. He went out to his barn and found his barn cat had given birth to yet another litter of kittens. I cannot have this. I cannot feed more mouths. I do not need more cats. And so he took the kittens from their mother and stuffed them in a burlap sack, tied it, and took the sack down to the river. You probably know where this is going. The mother cat followed the desperate sounds of her kittens going mew, mew, mew. They were frightened, mew. In those days, there was no ASPCA. Animals were not neutered to control their population like today. The farmer heaved the burlap sack with the kittens into the river, and the current swept them away. The mother cat raced along the river crying, meow, meow, meow. In the turbulence of the river, the tie on the sack became loose and the kittens were set adrift, each barely able to keep their head above the water. A cluster of willow bushes growing on the riverbank downstream heard the mother cat, who wept loud and pitifully, and in sympathy extended their long, slender branches out into the water where the kittens grabbed onto them. Now, we don't know whether those kittens lived or died, but we do know that the willows that at one time had no flowers now bear the spirits of those kittens where they grabbed onto the branches in the gentle velvet buds that feel like the silky fur of a small cat. In every country, in every language, the willow shrub, even though there are different species, is called the pussy willow. And we call these kinds of flowers that line the stem kittens or catkins. It is often the very first tree to bloom after winter and always a harbinger of better days. When I cut this from my shrub, from my pussy willow, there was still snow on the ground, so it was really a delight to see them. There are branches here that you can take home, right down below. Take one. If you keep it in water for a week or two, there's a good chance it will root, and you can plant it in your garden for more kittens. There are fresher ones also out on the welcome table that I just picked this morning, so you might want to try that. John will light the chalice, symbol of our faith tradition, in celebration of springtime, the stories and traditions of every culture, and in the hopes for peace. Now we will hear opening words from Reverend Amy Strano. Amy?
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here with you all this morning. It is Easter Sunday. It is the month of Ramadan, and tonight will be the third night of Passover. And spring is absolutely in the air, and thank you, Ken, for that, sharing that story and the pussy willows. As we gather today, we take this time to pause together for these holy days that mark joy in the face of death, freedom in the face of persecution, and love overcoming despair. As we gather today, let us open our hearts and minds to the beauty of the world, gratitude for all that we hold, and may we this day have it ignite in us energy to work for good, to advocate for needed change, and to be compassionate towards ourselves as we care for one another. It is a holy day because it is today. And so, in the spirit, I share our reading for this morning from Amanda Udis Kessler. Amanda is a hymn writer, songwriter, composer, and writer whose website, queersacredmusic.com, is a blessing of resources. A planet is born, a spark ignites, something completely new comes into being. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of life. A waterfall descends, a rainbow arcs through the sky. The ocean opens to an endless horizon. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of beauty. The stars pierce our hearts. Peace envelops us. We are blessed. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of wonder. In the midst of pain, we find our way to hope and restoration. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of healing. In the midst of fear, we do what is right and speak our truth in faith. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of courage. In our aloneness, we see someone in greater need and offer ourselves to them. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of compassion. We gather in community, in friendship, and cherish each other. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of love. Here ends our reading.
Thank you, Reverend Strano. Now Stephen will play Turn, 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 and the words will be on the screen. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this Pete Seeger song, written to the words from the book of Ecclesiastes, written about 900 some odd years before the birth of Jesus. Please sing along. Words you can read.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to give, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to read. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of wealth, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to mend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
Thank you. Reverend Amy Strano will deliver the first message.
Thank you. Well, as mentioned earlier, I am a member of the Unitarian Church of All Souls in Manhattan, and I love my congregation. I've been a member there since 1999. It's where I was ordained in 2008. However, I grew up in Piscataway, New Jersey, attending the First Unitarian Society of Plainfield. And throughout the 1970s and 80s, it was a thriving mid-sized congregation that was proudly humanist and the center of my family's life. Our community was full of interfaith couples celebrating both Easter and Passover. There was always an annual Seder in the parish hall, and I remember running around with my friends looking for the Afikomen. And I remember Easter mornings at FUSP, as we called it. At home, we would look, me and my brother, for what the Easter Bunny left us with baskets full of chocolates and treats. And later in the day, we would go to my very Catholic grandparents for Easter dinner, where I would have to wear a frilly skirt. But in between, at the First Unitarian Society of Plainfield, what I remember most about on Easter Sunday were the balloons. At the end of the service, everyone would process out of the sanctuary and gather in the garden out back. And we had balloons of every color. And the FUSP community, it was also so colorful. People had grown up Catholic, Jewish, Protestant, and were now mostly atheists and pagans, feminists and activists, gays and straights, proud to be a welcoming congregation in the early 1980s. FUSP was a sacred space where we could be whole and bold, and in many ways reminds me of your congregation, which I've visited before and hope to visit again in person. But back to the balloons. On Easter Sunday, and remember it was the 1980s, so we were still innocent to the environmental impact of this, we would each take a balloon, and with it on a string, we would attach a small piece of paper and write a message on it. A blessing, or as explained to me as a child, something that would make the person who found it smile. And then the moment would come when we would release all our balloons into the sun-drenched sky, a rainbow overhead. The sun, S-U-N, is reborn. Hallelujah. And we are holy and good, and the world is full of blessings. This is what I hold on to every Easter. And while we won't have balloons that we release into the sky today, I do want us to take that moment to think, what would we each write? I hope today or in the days ahead, you'll find a way to release your blessing into the world, something that will bring a smile to a stranger. May your roots grow deep, may your branches spread far, and may you find the world to be a wonderful place and leave it better for those who follow.
Thank you. We support the work of this congregation in many ways. And while we are meeting online, you can still contribute by PayPal or by check. Your financial contributions help to support the ongoing work of this congregation, including worship, religious exploration, and pastoral support. John will pass a basket for the regular Sunday collection. Your generosity is reflected in the ways that we're able to show up in our community for justice and community care. There are baskets at the back for our Helping Hands Fund, which supports many local organizations, and also a basket for the Minister's Discretionary Fund that provides support to individuals in need. You can contribute right now using PayPal, the link on your screen or in chat. Will show that you can send a check made out to UCSF, mailed to our PO box. Be sure to put Sunday offering in the memo line. While Stephen plays, I'm beginning to see the light. We pause for a moment to give some time to those who are accessing the PayPal site. Stephen? This is the time in our community of shared faith to listen to the open hearts of those gathered here, to share their joys, sorrows, and concerns, and to silently offer our own support and good wishes to them. To share on Zoom, you can use this link in chat. You can also take yourself off mute and introduce yourself while you share. And when you finish, remember to put yourself back on mute. If you're joining from the phone, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. If you're in the meeting house, you can come up to the front, light a candle in silence, or speak into the podium microphone. Please be brief. And now Reverend Amy will lead us in prayer. And immediately after, we will have a period of silent meditation.
Inspired by the words of John O'Donoghue, Irish poet and philosopher, I invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. Somewhere out at the edges, the night is turning and the waves of darkness begin to brighten on the shore of dawn. The heavy dark falls back to earth and the freed air goes wild with light. The heart fills with fresh, bright breath and thoughts stir to give birth to color. Arise today. In the name of silence, womb of the word. In the name of stillness, home of belonging. In the name of solitude, of the soul and the earth, arise today. Blessed by all things, wings of breath, delight of eyes, wonder of whisper, intimacy of touch, eternity of soul, urgency of thought, miracle of health, embrace of God. May we live this day compassionate of heart, clear of word, gracious in awareness, courageous in thought, generous in love. May I live this day. May you live this day. May they live this day. May we live this day. May we be blessed. Amen.
Please sing along as Stephen plays hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth. Words will be on the screen.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of hearing God, for the heart and mind seen, for the mercy to sound and sight, source of of the day and of the hill and vale, tree and cloud, sun and moon and stars above, source of to place for the joy of you and care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentleness and souls of all to this our
Thank you, Stephen. Reverend Amy will deliver the sermon for this Sunday.
Thank you. I believe in love. It is a profound and straightforward belief, and it is the foundation of my theology and the roots from which my spiritual practices bloom. Even without knowing most of you, by virtue of our gathering this morning in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, I know it's something many of us share in common: an uncompromising, all-encompassing passion for love, connection, and justice. We are principled people who believe in and thrive in practicing compassion and affirming the respect and dignity of all people. We believe in love, and for so many of us, love has saved us and is saving us from loneliness and despair. Love is saving us from fear, and love is inspiring us to create art, to create families, to create peace wherever and whenever we can. And beyond this congregation this morning, many people are gathering from many religious traditions throughout today in what I think we can name as a love. As a hospital chaplain, I take an active role in a lot of religious holidays. With over 1,000 patients and over 10,000 staff on site, there are many holy days and holidays to observe. I often can take a variety of roles in the expression of the holidays. For many Muslims, the month of Ramadan that we're in now is a time of discipline and dedication. The days of fasting and nights of feasting are centered on charity, worship, and developing empathy and connection to others with a strong communal aspect. That's an essential part of the experience. My role, one of the things I get to do is buy the dates that are shared at the iftar, the breaking of the fast. Meanwhile, many Jewish families and friends have been gathering at tables for Passover Seders. I loved getting to hear about the one you shared last night. And in those gathering to celebrate the freedom from oppression, the exodus from slavery. In my role as director of spiritual care, I get to make sure the kosher kitchen was thoroughly cleaned by building services. And then many Catholics and Protestants are gathering this morning in a joyful celebration, naming the resurrection of Christ, which in many ways we can also talk about as the rebirth of love. In the Christian calendar, the season leading up to today has been a time of contemplation, self-examination, reflection, and preparation, leading to meditations on death and resurrection. And as I'm sure many of you know, the season of Lent begins with Ash Wednesday. I take a more active, direct role in this season, in part with Ash Wednesday, imposing ashes for staff and patients who observe. with a mixture of burnt palms from the previous year's Palm Sunday mixed with some oil. This year, I spent the day in our hospital chapel, fully masked with Q-tips. And as each person came forward, I'd mark on their forehead the sign of the cross and say, "Remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return." Like in our song this morning, turn, 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 to everything there is a season, a time to live and a time to die. And with that in my heart, this tradition of ashes reminds me, a Unitarian Universalist, that yes, we are each alive and yes, we will die. And if we can embrace the knowledge that we will each die, we have to ask ourselves then, how will we each live? As I shared earlier, I grew up in a small UU congregation where we were humanists, atheists, former Catholics, cultural Jews, with a variety of theologies and beliefs united in our love and connection. I am now married to my beloved David, who is an Episcopal priest. So we get to talk a lot about, for him, he grew up Baptist and Pentecostal, how we meet and celebrate these holy days together. And so Easter now plays a very different role in my life beyond the Easter Bunny and balloons, but also the story as told in Christian congregations. We go to the great Easter Vigil, which in many ways I think of as almost the opposite order of what many of us celebrate in our services in our congregations on Christmas Eve, where we end our service with the lighting of candles and turning off lights and singing Silent Night. In the great Easter Vigil, the night before Easter Sunday, the service, it starts in darkness, a quiet, stark evening. And there's a somber quality like a memorial in the beginning, with the heaviness of death and loss still present. And then slowly candles start being lit, and soon the room is aglow. And then all the lights are on and bells are ringing, declaring hallelujah. And being in that joy is something that I've come to really enjoy celebrating as a family, and something that I feel grateful to my partner for inviting me into a new ritual, and understanding that really bridges the season from that moment of imposing ashes to then sunny Easter Sunday morning like we have today. And throughout all this, David and I were always talking about what we really have that unites us, which is our work as well. It is chaplaincy, the common ministry of providing spiritual and emotional support to people in a healthcare setting. For those of you unfamiliar with hospital chaplaincy, for most of us, we're religious professionals or clergy with a master's degree, and along the way, we take a unit of clinical pastoral education as part of our ordination requirement. I did my first unit in the summer of 2006 at NYU Langone Medical Center in Manhattan. And for 10 weeks, I was a chaplain intern visiting patients one-to-one and listening to their stories, struggles, and triumphs. And it was exhausting. I would go home and just sit on the couch and just want to eat cookies. I wanted to comfort myself from the pain. But I also felt so honored to get to spend time with a Jewish elderly woman who would hold my hand and tell me stories about how she baked bread, or to sit with a young woman after her brain surgery and look at fashion magazines and talk about hairstyles that she would have when her hair grew back. I stood at the bedside and prayed with the family as they said goodbye to their mother as she was taken off life support. These humbling experiences that in some ways were shocking, but were also so deeply meaningful. And it took me a while in my life, the spiral of my life, to loop back to this work, parenting a young child and finding my grounding as a single mom. I wasn't sure for a while what shape my ministry would take, but then I found myself again in this field of healthcare chaplaincy, doing more clinical pastoral education and working at a hospital. And as the director of spiritual care, I really think of that as my congregation. That is the community that I'm called to. In many ways, the staff are the congregants who are there week after week, as we welcome our patients, our visitors. And as I think about the team of people that I work with as we provide this care, I strive to connect and I strive to honor the worth and dignity of people. And it's not that it's always perfect, but it's an ongoing endeavor worthy and one that I feel is true to being a Unitarian Universalist. I want to cultivate inclusivity and welcoming that makes room for difference while maintaining safety for people to be themselves. I try to remember that most people are doing the best they can most of the time. And that has been hard. We live in a society where many feel isolated, lonely, and disconnected. Life is stressful and demanding. And as healthcare professionals, as chaplains, we want to provide that compassionate presence and actively listen, providing witness to pain, grief, longing, and hopefully facilitate some healing and joy and comfort. We look to build rapport, to listen to what's important, and help reflect the individual's humanity throughout their healthcare journey. And we work closely with the interdisciplinary team. In the field of chaplaincy and in what I come to understand, we talk about religion as that set of rituals and traditions, a community of faith that practices the honoring of the divine and sacred. And that it's religion is a subset of the larger concept of spirituality, the concept that as human beings, we have an innate aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning and purpose. Spirituality is the way that we experience our connectedness to the moment, to self, to others, to nature, to sacred or significant. Ultimately, we want healing and wellness for our whole selves, including our bodies, our minds, and spirits. And spirituality encompasses the way we care for our spirit. It's the human response to making meaning to the mysteries of life. We have moments in our lives of profound connection, sometimes to a sense of something greater than ourselves, and sometimes connection within a relationship, sometimes union with the divine. Spirituality is a cultivation and appreciation of these moments and the recognition that sometimes there are feelings of absence and disconnectedness to the moment or that which we call sacred. Our spirituality is both what makes our hearts sing and what breaks our heart. The writer Louise Erdrich writes, "Life will break you. Nobody can protect you from that, and living alone won't either. For solitude will also break you with its yearning. You have to love. You have to feel. It's the reason you're here on earth. You are here to risk your heart. You are here to be swallowed up. And when it happens that you are broken or betrayed or left or hurt, or death brushes near, let yourself sit by an apple tree and listen to the apples falling all around you in heaps, wasting their sweetness. Tell yourself you tasted as many as you could." Life breaks us all the time. We each gather here today at least a little wounded by life. We hunger for apples that taste so sweet, and we watch them fall. We look around us and we worry for ourselves, our children, our family, our communities, our environment, for the wars that are raging, that are terrorizing people, for the violence in our country, for the health crises, the pandemic that continues on. The suffering of our hearts and the suffering of humanity is ever present. And so I ask you, what breaks your heart and what makes your heart sing? In the torment of this pandemic, I've seen my own hospital overrun by COVID. I've been with families on the phone, unable to be with their loved ones in palliative care, and stood outside rooms with the phone pressed up to the glass so that the wife could see her husband when she couldn't be there in person. And I've gathered with staff in sorrow and prayer as coworkers were hospitalized. And I was surrounded throughout by people like my husband who've chosen this profession, surrounding myself in many ways with folks like yourself as we gathered in congregations, even if only on Zoom, to nurture the bittersweet in the mystery and miracle of life, the mystery and miracle of loss, and the mystery and miracle of love. Caitlin Butler, a chaplain on my team, she's a bit younger than me, and she lovingly calls me boss, which is endearing because we are so close and have been through so much together. She was featured in an article in the New Yorker back in April of 2020 called "The Plight of the Hospital Chaplain During the Coronavirus Pandemic." And they wrote, "Caitlin often tells the sick that they do not have to be alone. Even now," she says to them, "when hospitals have barred many patients from receiving visitors, Butler has been saying to them over the phone in the past few weeks, reaching the suffering in the rooms that no one can enter except mass medical staff. She's been saying to patients and families, also over the phone. And if a patient is sedated and no one can be found, she's prayed outside the door, trusting that the person in the bed will feel connected to her, to everyone, in the thing that she calls God, but for which many people have many names. Butler does not care if they call it God. She cares that they feel loved." And Caitlin said, "It's one thing to say that love always triumphs over death. Some years that we're saying it, we're not really living it, but this year we all are. And this is one of those years that you kind of need other people to believe it with you. Love triumphs out. Love always triumphs over death." And Caitlin and I, we find it easiest to believe this when we see nurses and doctors caring for their patients, and when we see it in our fellow chaplains working beside us, that with all these apocalyptic seeming seasons of life, and whether it's a pandemic or a cancer diagnosis, that what is already true becomes more true. And connection, the connection between people, is what we have faith in now more than ever. This year, in the season of spring at All Souls, my 14-year-old daughter will share her credo statement at the coming of age ceremony, a UU tradition in which we invite our youth to share what they believe. Dorothy, she has a solid draft, but she's still working on it. And I'm confident that her love for life and the people she shares hers with will shine through. And I think of my own coming of age service over 30 years ago. I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I know I talked about love. I remember standing at the pulpit surrounded by my peer group and knowing my faith. And the essence is still true. I'm grounded in love, love for my family, friends, communities, and work. And more I'm finding love for myself and that sense of belonging that is ultimately knowing that, yes, I too am loved. Our hearts break and our hearts sing, and love guides us through. It is cosmic and mystical, this mystery of loving and losing, of living and dying. I'm not sure what this new season holds. There will undoubtedly be flowers and birds and bunnies, fresh blossoms and growth. We will fall in love. We will have our hearts broken. Some of us will give birth to babies. Some of us will take our first steps. And some of us will hold hands with someone as they take their last breath. We might plant gardens. We might smile at strangers. And meanwhile, we will return again and again to the stories that holy days bring us back to. Bring us back to the essence of love. My husband and I, when we got married a couple of years ago, and we find each other in the mystery and miracle of love. And for the readings for our ceremony, one of the ones that we chose was from the Velveteen Rabbit, and I share a short selection with you now. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender before Nana came to tidy the room. "Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Love isn't how you are made," said the Skin Horse. "It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the Skin Horse, for he was always truthful. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt." "Does it happen all at once, like being wound up, or bit by bit?" Rabbit asked. "It doesn't happen all at once," said the Skin Horse. "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it often doesn't happen to people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints, and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand." And so let us pray. Let us pray to understand. Spirit of life and all that is divine, we ask to be witnesses to the blessings of love, that we may love and be loved and know love, truly and deeply, again and again. May we be blessed with moments of clarity and appreciation for the beauty around us and within us. May we awaken to the divinity of truth and be present in the wonder and mystery and miracle of now. And may peace and goodness surround us and the light of love guide us. Amen. Whatever today and the days ahead hold for you, may they be full of love, love in all its mystery and all its miracle. Blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Amy. Please sing along as Stephen plays hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot see sing like angels. If you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Reverend Amy.
And now in our going, may the Spirit of life bless us and keep us. Oh, yes. And may the light of love shine upon us and out from within us and be gracious unto us and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Blessed be.
Please join us in the words on the screen as John extinguishes the chalice. These words will appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Stephen?
very much.